Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Child Care Chatter podcast. I'm your host, Emika, and today we're talking about something that feels simple, but is actually incredibly powerful: outdoor learning. Our episode is titled Backyard Explorers: The Magic of Outdoor Learning and Play. Whether you're a home child care provider with a small backyard or a center with a full playground, outdoor spaces offer so much more than just a place to burn off energy. They're classrooms without walls. Joining me today is Jodi, one of our consultant supervisors here at Child Care Resource and Referral. Jodi works closely with both homes and center programs, supporting quality improvement, coaching, and creative curriculum implementation. Jodi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Emika. It's great to be here.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture. When we say outdoor learning, what does it really mean? Is it just recess, or is there more to it?
You know, when I think about the word recess, it's really been used more in educational settings. It describes that time that's spent outdoors. And when you look up the definition of the word recess, it's interesting because it means a temporary break from participation in an activity. That doesn't really fit in with what we know how learning works in early childhood. Since play is the way that young children learn, recess or outdoor play is really just another chance for children to learn and move in a different setting. It's not really a break from their participation. And as our understanding of how young children learn has changed, the terminology for recess or outdoor play has also changed. So you might hear outdoor learning. We're hearing a lot of outdoor classroom anymore, a lot about nature-based play, which I really enjoy. And it all means the same thing: getting children outside to move their bodies, to explore, and to learn.
Jodi, I love that you set the technical definition of recess, because it's not just viewed as just outdoor time when teachers get a break or, they just get time to explore outside. It's actually learning when you put it in perspective. And from your perspective, what developmental areas are most impacted when children have consistent outdoor experiences?
I like that you're saying consistent, because when we're talking about outdoor play and learning, we're not talking about maybe 15 minutes once in the morning. We're talking about consistently throughout their day. They're getting chances to be outdoors, or even slightly off topic, to bring the outdoors inside. But when I think about young children going outside to play and to learn, what I'm really envisioning is a blank green canvas, just grass, a space for running, a space to burn off energy, places to play tag. And we think about tag just as a regular childhood activity, but it's really a social emotional function, because you learn to start, you learn to stop, you learn to wait your turn, especially if you're playing something like freeze tag, you've got to wait then. Hula hooping, that creates large motor control. Having things around for children to create obstacle courses, which is a friendship building skill. It takes teamwork. You've got to work together to build an obstacle course, to collect those items. We really love mud kitchens. I love seeing mud kitchens places, and it doesn't have to be actual mud. It could be dirt, or just a place for children to create and build on their creativity and sensory needs. Music walls are really fun. I've seen a lot of people do fun things where they just collect old kitchen items, pots and pans, and hang them on a wall and allow kids to bang on them with large spoons. That gives the children a chance to express themselves, but also having a quiet space for children to sit with a book. I don't really think about a large, colorful climbing structure, because it has such limited functions for play and learning.
I love that you mentioned the social emotional aspect of outdoor play. A lot of times we think about the physical aspect. So how do you think that outdoor play supports regulation and behavior?
So when children are able to play outside, it's a chance for them to express themselves. Indoors, it's limited what you can do. Space might be limited. Noise is generally limited. Children are allowed to be much more noisy outside. So going outside really reduces stress. It's been shown to reduce the cortisol levels in both children and adults, because we know adults also benefit from children playing outside. There are hopefully fewer rules for outdoor play than that time indoors, so that allows children to practice those independent skills and maybe even explore a little bit of risky play, still in a safe way. But that could look like having a slide that children walk up. I'm always going to suggest that people have an up slide. Providing those spaces for risky play in a safe way helps children build their self-confidence levels, which also provides them with those better self-regulation skills.
I love that. So, do you see differences in programs that prioritize outdoor time?
Absolutely. You can tell when you walk in if a classroom has been able to go outside that day and if it's something that they do regularly. There's just a huge difference in programs that prioritize really free play outside. You can see that children and adults both have less stress, they have closer relationships, and a lot fewer issues with challenging behaviors, which everybody would like to reduce.
Okay, I love all the information you provided so far. So let's get a little bit more specific. Let's talk about home child care programs. A lot of providers have maybe smaller spaces, maybe a backyard, maybe a shared yard, maybe like limited green space. What are some ways that home providers can turn their outdoor space into a meaningful learning environment?
Okay, you're speaking my language now, Mika. So I was a home provider for many years, and we lived outside all summer long. And having a small outdoor space can really be a blessing. It means that the children and the provider get to really use their imaginations. If you have a small outdoor space, or if you don't have space to store things, those items that you think of for using outside, that shouldn't limit your time spent outdoors. It just means you get to use some of your materials in two places. It is such a great idea. Instead of duplicating things, just take some of those things you already have indoors and take them outdoors. Gather up your baby dolls, some books, blocks, cars, of course, bubbles, sidewalk chalk, and take those outside to set up some interest areas. The children's imaginations are really going to take care of the rest. And of course, gardening. I love gardening. I love seeing programs that garden. It can be in a container, just getting children the chance to grow something, a space to do that together. And of course, children are much more likely to try new foods if they've grown those.
I agree. Gardening is a good one. And I love that you mentioned that it doesn't have to be super expensive. You can get creative without, spending too much money. Do you have any other examples of materials that providers can use to create a rich outdoor exploration without a big budget?
Yeah, absolutely. Outdoor play should never be the thing that makes or breaks you financially. Anything you already have, it shouldn't be stressful or expensive to be able to get outside. And honestly, it really shouldn't be adult-led. It should be set up by the adults, but not really led by the adults. Provide the children with some buckets for collections and let the children decide what those items will be. What do they want to collect? When I was a home provider, every single summer we had buckets of locust shells. We had a large tree in the backyard, and the children would just go and just collect the locust shells. And it probably looked like a locust cemetery, but they had so much fun. We would have an entire totes of just locust shells. They would build houses from sticks. They'd set those locust shells inside with leaves and acorns, pine cones, dandelions, whatever they could find. It cost $0, and they had the most fun time building castles and houses just for the locust shells.
I love that because it really introduces them into their own environment. Like, the best learning is really in your backyard.
Absolutely. And then they weren't scared of things. So the children who may have been scared of picking up a bug at the beginning, they saw that there was nothing to be scared of. And then they were much more interested in science in general.
I love that. And then that takes it back into indoors, too, when you can really incorporate some more science.
Absolutely. Because, of course, locust shells ended up inside my house as well.
Okay. All that information was amazing, but let's talk about safety.
Yes.
So safety is always at the forefront of providers' minds, especially in a home setting. So how can providers balance safety requirements while also allowing children to explore, take risky play, and build independence?
Well, I'm glad that we're talking about safety because safety and supervision is something that as CCR&R, we're always going to talk about, no matter what, we're always going to be looking at safety and supervision, especially when it's talking about time outdoors and particularly with child-led play. We don't want anybody wandering off. We don't want anybody getting hurt. But for centers and homes both, there are, of course, safety regulations. That's for HHS. You're going to be checking your outdoor space and ensuring it's free of hazards. That might look like checking your equipment if you have it. For some reason, bees love to build their nests underneath the little Tykes equipment. So check underneath your equipment. You do not want to send children home with bee stings all over them. Make sure your equipment, whatever you have, isn't cracking, making sure that it's not getting too hot. So if children are touching it, they're not going to get a blister. There's not any areas for fingers to get pinched. Some of that equipment will get a big crack in it, and then children can fit their fingers down into it. Checking for things that aren't necessarily a safety hazard for children, but we had a bunny nest underneath one of our slides one year, and so we had to build a little fence around it. That way the bunnies were safe, because of course we didn't want to move them. But it was just having that awareness that there were living creatures there, and it gave us a chance to really talk about taking care of nature. But again, still safety, because we didn't want to hurt anything. Making sure that there's not any debris that blows in. You know, it's so windy in the spring in Iowa. You really have to kind of go out and check regularly for things like just even bags that get blown into your yard or trash. Check to make sure, especially if you're along a busy street, that a glass bottle didn't get thrown in. Checking that there aren't any bug sprays or chemicals left out. If it's grilling season, make sure that there aren't any grilling things still sitting out. And of course, if you have outdoor pets, make sure that anything that they leave behind has been cleaned up. And then when you're talking about supervision, really looking around and checking, do I know how many children I brought outside with me? Do I know their names? And do I know where they are at all times? Practice standing in different areas of your outdoor space to see where are those blind spots. Where could a child hide? Is there a space that if myself and the other adult are standing in one area that we couldn't see them? Definitely call your child care consultant, have them come out. They can help you create a supervision and a safety plan. And make sure that everyone has clean drinking water. That's not just the kids, that's the adult as well. We don't want anybody getting overheated. And we sometimes see this as the parents will provide water bottles, and those will get filled before going outside. But I've also seen some really neat ways to set up a drink station with cups, and so that everyone can just go get fresh water whenever they need.
The drinking station is a good touch. I don't think I've ever seen that before, so that's really innovative.
Yeah, it was neat, because it was just one of those big sports or camping jugs and cups with their names on it.
That makes a lot of sense. So now that we're still on the topic of homes, a lot of homes have mixed age groups.
Yeah.
So how can mixed age groups in home programs benefit from outdoor exploration?
Having mixed age groups is terrific. It allows the older children to teach. It gives them a chance to model and really have some responsibility. So they can model all of those skills for the younger children, which then helps the younger children learn them much more quickly. But put the older children in charge of teaching them how to play some of the cooperative games, like freeze tag that we talked about, that it helps build social self-regulation skills. Duck, duck, goose. Give the children some ideas on how to build an obstacle course. And it also allows the younger children to build their own imaginations in ways that they might not be experiencing elsewhere.
Absolutely. And with mixed age groups, that also includes infants and toddlers. When I first started working in the childcare space, I had a hard time figuring out what to do with my 3-month-old and taking them outdoors. So what does outdoor learning look like for infants and toddlers in a home care setting?
That is one that people run into, obviously, regularly when caring for infants and toddlers, and just not knowing what to do. And it looks really similar. It's just at a much slower pace. You're going to want to ensure that you have blankets, because So often, the infants and toddlers do not want to sit on the grass. They don't like the texture. So have something that they can sit on. Have some toys that they can reach. For toddlers who want to pick everything up and put it into their mouths, make sure that you've got items that are still nature-based, but that's safe for them to explore. So maybe some really large rocks with different textures. Pine cones. Don't use acorns, as those would be a choking hazard. Maybe some different leaves. Children just really, really need to be experiencing those different textures when they are outdoors.
I love that you mentioned that, because there are a lot of outdoor things that they can touch and feel and get the texture of, and still get the experience of being outdoors without, causing any type of, like you said, choking hazard or any type of danger.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up homes, and now we're going to talk more about center-based programs.
Perfect.
So centers often have designated playgrounds and sometimes very structured spaces.
Yes.
How can centers move beyond just swings and slides and really embed learning into outdoor time?
So when you're thinking about children and you're thinking about outdoor learning spaces, there's really not a lot of difference in how a home or a center could provide that space. A center is going to need to provide items on a larger scale, of course, because they're going to have more children. But the experiences themselves will be very much the same because the children aren't different. Most centers have those dedicated play spaces, like you said, and usually those don't have to be shared, maybe just with different age groups. But that really might allow them to set up those interest areas outdoors that can stay outside. So you might be able to have an entire kitchen set or a dramatic play area set up, maybe a larger mud kitchen. We've got several programs, both homes and centers in our region, who've achieved Nature Explorer certification. And they do a really beautiful job of creating spaces for children to play and express themselves outdoors.
And I love that you mentioned mirroring the indoor to the outdoor, right? So when we talk about curriculum, sometimes staff may struggle with transitioning the indoor curriculum outdoors. So what advice would you give teachers who are unsure how to teach outside?
So when you're saying curriculum, the first thing that comes to my mind is always, what is the plan for the day? Because if you do not have a plan for the day, you know that children are going to be bouncing from the windows to the walls. You are not ever going to have a successful day without a plan. So just like indoors, your outdoor play should be largely child-led, with those teaching moments really embedded as play opportunities. We don't really want to see children inside or outdoors just sitting down for lengthy lessons. With those younger children who are preschool and younger, children should not be sitting for more than 15 minutes at a time. And even I would suggest that even that's pushing it pretty far. And that's going to include moving from one sitting activity, such as circle time, to another sitting activity, such as a table activity. So then thinking about child-led learning outdoors, that's going to look like opportunities for learning taken outside. So if you're learning about colors indoors, you might have your indoor space set up to learn through books, puzzles, math, and science. That might be all of your interest areas. Your little playstations are set up to learn about colors. And then think about what that looks like outside. Maybe you're taking your painting outdoors, because that also is so much easier to clean up. You can color with different colors of chalk, give children egg cartons and have them color each of the sections in a different color, and then do a nature hunt to fill those egg cartons with items that they find outside that are in the matching colors.
I love all of those. You're incorporating outdoor. You're also incorporating math, because they have the egg cartons. They're counting how many spaces they have to color, and things of that sort.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really involving math. But can you elaborate a little bit more on how outdoor play can support early literacy?
Oh my gosh, it is so easy to extend children's vocabulary outdoors. Asking them questions, expanding on what they're already saying or pointing at. When children have an outdoor interest, extend that interest indoors. If they see a rabbit outside, find a book about rabbits inside and read that at the next story time to keep that interest going and keep it alive.
And when we're talking about centers and they want to kind of document the things that how learning is happening outside. Mm-hmm. How can programs document learning that happens outside?
So documentation in early childhood really just means that you're writing down what you see or hear the children doing. It sounds official. It sounds really scary to say documentation. I must document what they are doing. We must assess. But when I taught preschool, I just used sticky notes or the large address labels. And I kept them on a clipboard with a pen. And when I saw a child do something, I just jotted it down. Mm-hmm. So today's date, Johnny stacked a tower 6 blocks high. Today's date, Susie hopped 6 times on her right foot. So you could do the exact same thing outside. You know, Sarah showed an interest in picking up acorns. Sally collected 8 pine cones and counted each of them individually. So you can really document everything that they're doing without it being scary or really official.
Right. So it's more like just writing down the experiences they had outside, yes, rather than documenting, what new milestone they may have reached.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because those all tie in together.
Absolutely.
And, eventually you'll see them reach those milestones, mm-hmm, just by those small interactions that you see them make outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Just taking anecdotal or running notes and just jotting down what you see is really going to add up and give you an idea of where the children's development is at any given time.
Beautiful. I love that. So we're going to move on to another segment. And this segment is about overcoming barriers. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about real life barriers, weather, licensing concerns, parent hesitation. Mm-hmm. These are some common challenges. First, weather.
Oof, yeah.
In Iowa, we experience all 4 seasons, sometimes 6. How can programs embrace outdoor learning year-round?
Ooh, it can feel tricky with Iowa experiencing so many seasons, often all in the same day. A lot of times we leave for work bundled up in coats, and by the end of the day, everyone's sweating. Ask families to send children with extra clothes to leave at the program in case they need to change before or after play, whether because the temperature has changed or whether you wanted to engage in some messy play, you were able to do that. Gather up some clothes, either secondhand, ask for donations for some of that clothing to make sure that you have it on hand, and are able to change children so everyone can engage in that play. Check the weather and ending advisories ahead of time, even, the night before, so you know what to expect, so you can, again, have that plan for your day ahead of time. You're going to need to look for how cold it's going to be, how hot, wind chill, or like we've seen the last couple of years in the middle of summer when there are wildfires up north and there's a wildfire breathing advisory. Keeping track of those because obviously we want everyone to be really safe. But the reality is it's all about planning. Even 15 minutes outdoors first thing in the morning before it's too hot, or a quick walk around the block or through your parking lot can make a huge difference in how the rest of the day is going to go.
You mentioned talking to parents about bringing extra clothes, mm-hmm, and just extra items. So when you're communicating with families, some parents may not immediately see the educational value of, mm-hmm, outdoor play.
Sure. So
how can providers explain the importance of outdoor learning to families?
Everyone might not have the same type of past experiences with outdoor play. So if the parent grew up not having access to a space to play outdoors, either they might not have the same standards, same beliefs. They might really value that their children's clothing stays clean. So knowing what those important pieces are to each of the families is a great place to start. So I'm a huge fan of surveys. You can take a survey on anything. A lot of times in childcare, when we think of surveys, we're always thinking of do you like what I charge? Of course we don't like what you charge. We'd love it to be free. Do you like the hours? No, I'd like you to be open later. But you can send a survey on anything. Sending home a survey on what they find important about outdoor play. What are their family beliefs around outdoor play? One of our monthly newsletters that went out was about outdoor play. So programs could certainly share that with families to discuss that importance. And sharing information, not just getting it from the families, but sharing it back. All of that communication should be reciprocal. So when you share photos with the families, either through social media, maybe if you use a child care management system like Playground or Brightwheel, what intent are you sending with that photo? If you're just sending out a quick photo of the children elbow deep in mud without an explanation, particularly to a family who really values cleanliness, that is not going to be received quite as well than if you included a description such as getting hands-on with mud is a fantastic calming experience that engages all 5 senses. Today, children in our program participated in sensory play while growing their social emotional skills as they worked together to create mud soup. They each took turns finding something to add and mixed it in, fostering creativity and friendship skills. That is going to be received much differently by families than just a photo of their child elbow deep in mud.
I love that. The communication is key. I can understand if I get a picture elbow deep in mud, I'm thinking about, okay, bath time is going to be a long time.
Yes.
So
how much laundry do I have to do at the end of my already long day? Yes.
Right. Exactly. So we touched a lot on providers. We touched a little bit on families. Let's get more into the consultant perspective. As a consultant supervisor, you've visited many programs. What's something that you've seen outdoors that's really impressed you?
Ooh, I have seen a lot of programs. So our region covers 19 counties, and I think I've been to most of the counties to see programs, which I love. And I love seeing outdoor play spaces. If I've been in your program, I've probably asked for a tour, and I will probably ask to see the outdoors as well. And I've seen some really terrific uses of outdoor space. Most recently, though, I've seen some really great ways to ease the transition of actually getting the kids from indoors to outdoors. That's the hardest part, right? I remember being in childcare, both as a home provider, as a co-provider with a center. And it can be so tough to get children ready to go outside. You're pottying them, your diapers, sunscreen, coats, water. And we know that childcare providers are smart. We know that they know getting children outside is not only important, but that the rest of the day will go more smoothly with children who've had time to run and play. It's that getting outside. There's so many steps. But if you plan those steps, you plan to teach the children how to get ready to go outside, that time is going to become much easier and less stressful. I was at a program recently and it was very snowy. The staff had definitely spent time teaching the children. And these were 2.5 to 3-year-olds, so a little bit older toddler, younger preschool age. And those toddlers and preschoolers knew how to put on their own snow gear. The children could talk us through it, the people who were there, their snow pants first, then their boots, then their coat, then their hat, and then their gloves. They asked each other for help. They asked the teachers for help. They came up and asked me for help. I thought it was adorable. And then once one teacher had her group of 4 preschoolers ready, she took those children outside. That way they weren't just sitting around waiting. Another program I visited during the summer last year, they had actually built getting ready to go outside right into their calendar. So while the teacher would lead a circle time, doing a movement, a song, and a story, she would send 1 or 2 children to get their things and then help them get them on, and then they'd sit back down. They would rejoin the circle. So again, they weren't just sitting and waiting, which that's when we always see that those behaviors start occurring.
I love that, and that really taps into the building routine into a routine.
Yes.
Things that we don't necessarily think about, but when we're in early childhood, we kind of have to think about because they want to know what's going on too.
Yes, they do.
Right.
Absolutely.
So for providers who may feel overwhelmed, maybe they think that their outdoor space isn't ideal or they don't know where to start. Starting this week, putting this into the present, what's one small step that they can take?
First of all, don't judge yourself too harshly. The parents, the families who are at your program, who are bringing children there, I always have to step back and think, All of these families are choosing to bring their children to a program because of something that provider offers. It's easy to compare yourself to a program with lots of space, lots of funding, which most of us don't have, and then not feel like you're doing enough. If you could do one thing differently this week, look at your daily schedule and figure out if you are actually getting outside most days. And if not, why? Reach out to your child care consultant for some help on working through your daily schedule. Try to fit in some more outdoor time, or try to create a plan to teach children through those transitions of getting outside.
Beautiful. So before we wrap up, I have one final question. If you could leave child care providers with one message about outdoor learning, what would it be?
So I actually was listening to a webinar recently. And again, it was about outdoor play, just like we're talking about, and it was about the planning section of it. So something that everyone will recognize, the sun did not shine. It was too wet to play. So we sat in the house all that cold, wet day. And we know what happens from there when the children had to sit. They did not like it, not one little bit. So the Cat in the Hat has already outlined for us what happens on a day when we did not plan, and we didn't plan in time, either for outdoor play or some large motor activities to happen. So don't make those same mistakes. Don't allow the weather to become the dictator of your day. Maria Montessori has a beautiful quote about outdoor play in early childhood. Let the children be free. Encourage them. Let them run outside when it is raining. Let them remove their shoes when they find a puddle of water. And when the grass of the meadows is wet with dew, let them run on it and trample it with their bare feet. Let them rest peacefully when a tree invites them to sleep beneath its shade. Let them shout and laugh when the sun wakes them in the morning. As long as you are creating space in your daily schedule to take children outside, and you're not dictating what they can do to an extent that does not allow for creativity and play, then you cannot do outdoor play wrong.
That was a beautiful message. Thank you, Jodi. So, thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today. Outdoor learning is magical.
Yes, it is.
And not because it's complicated, because it taps into children's natural curiosity and joy.
Yes.
To all of our providers listening, whether you're in a home or in a center, your outdoor space does not have to be perfect. It just has to invite exploration.
Absolutely.
If you'd like to support in enhancing your outdoor learning environment, connect with your local child care resource and referral consultant. We're here to help you every step of the way. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Child Care Chatter. For more resources, visit iowaccrr.org and follow us on social media. Join us next month for another episode brought to you by your pals at Child Care Resource and Referral of Southeast Iowa. Until next time, keep exploring, keep discovering, and keep making a difference in the lives of children every single day.